So with Cinema4D release 22, R22, the glTF exporter, which was recently a plugin on the labs section on Max on Site, is now built into the software. And I'm going to kind of walk through some of the stuff I've been working on and exploring with exporting and loading into three.js. There's a ton of stuff you can do in Cinema. Some of it translates over. Some I still don't totally know. I couldn't find any other tutorials, so I've just kind of been brute forcing, going through a ton of iterations to see what works. But I'm going to do a quick primer here, just kind of on modeling and kind of what the workflow is. So I'm going to start here. Yeah, so this is Cinema. I'll assume you have some knowledge of Cinema and knowledge of three.js. There's plenty of tutorials on both if you don't. So yeah, come in here, pick an object, right? And then if I come into here, garage chain lines, I can essentially see all the polygons that are going to be used in three.js. It doesn't totally matter here. Usually in Cinema, if you're exporting out to a video, but obviously for game development, that low poly has been the focus with the new PS5 demo that just came out last week. It's apparently none of this matters anyway, but for the web, it still matters. The more polygons you have, usually the more smooth the model is going to be, but you also have to deal with file size because each one of those each one of the vertices it needs to be accounted for. So anyway, so here's a basic shape, right? And so here's something cool. Most of these are supported in these deformers will change the geometry, but they don't actually. You can't animate the animations, and some of that just don't work, and that kind of makes sense, right? These are deforming the geometry. Any sort of animation in three.js would require tracking that deformation. These aren't recognized by three.js, of course, and so you'd have, again, the better way to animate that would be directly in three.js. You can animate parameters, x, y, position, rotation, some of that in here. I won't get into that in this video, but again, like animating a twist or any of these, you just can't do. But you can. So like if I come into like explosion, for example. Oops. So what I can do is go, oh, cool, here's all these polygons, right? And I can take this, I can now export that out to Cinema, to glTF. I'll walk you through the setup I have real quick. Just a setup I was working on. So yeah, so here it is, right? And then here's what I have in three.js. glTF loader, and then an HDR texture thing here. Let me turn this on. Oh, that's too much, sorry. Okay, so here we go. So this is polygon, geometry I made in Cinema. Here it is now working on the web. And note the file size is 18K. So contrary to popular belief, you don't have to have a massive file size, but obviously this isn't that cool of a model, so you're going to have to get into the more info you add, the bigger it's going to get. But I'll walk you through a couple of these here. So that's not that cool, but and then again, these deformers are non-destructive. So again, I just deleted that, as you saw, and I'm back to normal. I'm going to add some more in here, just my base geometry. But yeah, so if I go into a displacer, right, I add that in there. So I'll add a noise displacer, and I will increase that somewhat, and come into the noise. Let's just pick a different one, and then the contrast down, kind of bring these up and down. And so here's our shape right now. That's pretty jagged. It's pretty low poly. And again, we're 18K so far. So we have, and if you're familiar with Cinema, you hopefully understand what the subdivision surface does. But to show you what it basically does is it subdivides each of these polygons down, interpolates the halfway point between two of the points, and creates new geometry there. And so you can see, here's what it looks like when we have 0 subdivisions. Here's what it is with 1. Here's what it is with 2, 3, 4. And after a while, it starts to get, you don't even see a visual difference here, and we're getting way too much info. But we'll stop at, let's say, here, right? So, and then now, again, back into the noise, I can come into here, I can change kind of the scale. And again, animating these parameters doesn't quite work. It doesn't work in three.js because they don't recognize what any of this means. You could do that sort of animation, but you would best do it straight in JavaScript and put a displacement map on the polygons, run it through some sort of Perlin noise or whatever, and have that animate. But anyway, you can do a lot of stuff, so I'm going to keep going through that. So yeah, you can kind of see, whatever. So we have all these here. I will come back up to... turn that on. No. I'm going to go into here. Sorry, into this one. So I have these up at the top, but I'm going to do this different. These are just different types of polygon configurations. And you can see that one has this kind of weird 0 point at the top. So you can pick any of these other ones, really. Again, back into here, I can kind of do the size here. Back into this one. Seems really bright. Okay, so now let's export this out. Sorry, what are we on here? Okay, 2, I'll do 3. Export, glTF, and everything's set here. Textures, again, if you're going to do animations, we're not getting into this one, but it's really just textures are all that matter here. Hit that, modified, this, hit save, hit replace, this, and here we go. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit for, oh, you know what? Here, I'm using this. I'm using a different HDR. Okay, there, that's pretty good. So, with not a lot of work, we have a pretty cool shape with a really soft, lighting. In fact, let me turn off, back in JavaScript, let me turn this whole thing off here. Let's see, I think it's here to here. Save that. So now this is just lights. Geez, sorry. This is just lights. I have a bunch of lights here, 5 lights. They're not, let's see here. So this is with default lights, and again, it's really, really nice looking, edges and stuff like that. Again, with 200K here, almost 300K. But turning off the lights. Let's off the lights, and then I turn back on this my HDR here. You see, it's just a nicer kind of look. And there's some sharp points here. I can go back into Cinema and soften this a lot more. It's a kind of a harsh noise I'm using anyway. In fact, let's just do that real quick, because if anyone's watching this far, they're probably interested in some of this. Let's pick a different, oh, I think I did that already. Try that one. Yeah, okay, wavy. Brightness, low clip, high clip. Supposed to do something like that. It's a little softer, I think, than that other version. Okay, so that's kind of our noise. And again, what you can do, what is recognized is these, right? So if I want to add in position, here, let's just say, put in the rotation. Rotate along all three axes, come out here, do 360, 360, 360, and then set those keyframes. And then we have this here in Cinema. If I export this out, glTF, animation. We want to, I said I wouldn't do the animation stuff, but I'll just do it real quick. Probably bite me in the butt to do that, but, oh jeez, hold on. I didn't even have that built in. There's a Don McCurdy has a killer thing that I use all the time. It's just kind of a default loader. It has all the animation supports. It doesn't either, so. I mean, my animations aren't going anyway. Screwed up. Shouldn't. There was an I thought we had an animation thing here, but anyway, no matter. Let me get back to where it was. But animations are supported. I just again I screwed that up, so I'll just do that later. Okay, so materials. This is. So there's PBR, which is physically based rendering or something like that. I don't know what it means, but I forget what it means. But this is kind of support. So this is technically supported in here as a mesh standard material. Physically based rendering, yeah. So and this kind of walks you through what the different settings do in three.js. But what I have been trying to explore is which ones actually translate from Cinema. So so I'll just start with some. So like if I go into the reflectance, let's start with reflectance. That's a big one. If I come into here and I turn off the diffuse and I look at this default reflection, which is here, this I can set this color to, something like a purpley, and now I get this reflective color on there. Notice there's no color channel set, it's just this reflectance channel. Let's start with that. Export that out. Geez, sorry, I screwed that up. I'll try and cut some of this out. So there we go. We have a nice reflective material on there. It's really pretty. And then notice, like if I come to, let's see. Yeah, if I come to here and I change. So the lighting and the texture is coming from an image. So if I do this here, it's a completely different looking image, or a completely different set of, different look. And these are each using their own. Again, it's using the image data to create this. So all I'm doing is loading in a different image, and nothing else changes, and I get these drastically different looks. And note this changes. Setting the exposure and all that is going to be completely different with each image. But yeah, so that's kind of on for the PBR materials. This is the kind of the key channel. One other thing I want to show is, so if I do, Okay, if I do here, oh, go. Okay, so I'm gonna do now. What do I want to show you? Oh, so physically based rendering has the key channel is the reflectance channel, but what I don't totally understand is I can do the same thing with just a default material. So the default material, I can come in, I can pick a reflectance channel. Let's see, so I'll add in, I mean, there's different ones you can add, but I'm going to add, actually, I'll just add in this reflection because it seems to be that's the same channel. Into additive, and I'll add this and then this color. So now I have the color channel. Something like that, maybe. Anyway, so let's export that out. And there's 281K. That's with one file or with one blob. With two blobs, it's going to be roughly 540 or so, right? Because again, it's just 562, pretty good. So yeah, so I'm getting very similar results with default materials as well. I'm not totally sure on some of this, but here's where it starts to get cool. Is if I take, okay, so let's take off the displacer. Let's add, like, so some of the channels are supported, some aren't. Normal maps are totally supported, and they're super cool. So I have this normal map here, and you can get these online. I forget where I got. I should give this guy a shout out. He's got a ton of them. I'll try and link it in the description. But so I've just added this normal map. It looks kind of like golf ball-y kind of shape. That's on here. If I do and I export that out again, now this file size is going to be bigger because now it's including this image data. So it was 500K. Now it'll be probably twice that or even more. Oh, 1.1. So, but look at this texture. And again, there's not geometry there. This is, as you can see, it's just a circle. And all it's doing is adding this normal map, which pushes, it renders the pixels in 3D space. It, RGB aligns with XYZ. And so this, this image is, you can't even see it in this one, but that's essentially giving the illusion of geometry. It's really good for textures, things like that. And look how beautiful, that's really nice. And you know, if I had this just in like the color channel, it wouldn't work. It would these reflections. Notice the reflections right here on this are changing, and it wouldn't do that. That's the beauty of a normal map. So you can see it's not seamless here. There's some stuff you can do there, but anyway, it's kind of the basics. This is a really long video, so I think I'll stop here. But yeah, I'm going to keep going through this. If you guys have questions. Oh, one other thing. Let me just show you real quick. So other channels that are supported, like the alpha channel, for example. Let me find one. Opacity. Where's an opacity? A better one? No, not good. Okay, so I have this metal grill kind of opacity thing going. So what that's going to do is now make this kind of Swiss cheesed, and it's a gives it an alpha channel. So let me just change while I'm in here, color. Let's just change some of this so you can kind of just see that there's maybe like a kind of a silvery goldy kind of look. glTF. Okay. Again, I added a new image in there, right? So now it's going to be, so it quickly does add up, but that's simply just because that's how much info is in there. So here you go. So now I have this alpha channel on there as well. It doesn't really work well with my normal map I have there, but this is, again, just a rough example. You can see right through the geometry, and again, it's just done with an image, so I didn't have to model out each one of these holes or any of that. So, okay, I'll stop there, and then we'll, oh, actually, let me keep saying that. Let me show this with a couple images here. Set a difference there, and then last one we'll do. Yeah, so there's like nice, all of a sudden that looks kind of like gold and shiny. Anyway, I'll keep doing some of these. It's late. I'm just kind of rambling here. I'll try and get something more focused next time. Anyway, hopefully that answers some questions or gives at least an intro to people. I can post all this on GitHub or something if you want. It's actually up there. If you go to this QR, if you go to Jared's stanley.github.io, I have this thing, and this is no texture. This is just with a light, which is really nice. But yeah, anyway, this is my repo's up there too, so it's /Jared Stanley. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.